One other thing I did was take the girls' pictures, which always pleases them. But what I was going to say about these little girls that come in on the bus, they come from homes out in that area east of town. Uh, oh, I don't know how to describe it to you, but it's sort of like the west side. And I don't think their homes are too stable in any sense of the word. And they brought with them a little cousin of theirs that is a fifth grader and in my class, but she'd never been out to class. But anyway, when their folks let them out here, they said, we'll pick you up on our way home or something like that. And so it came time to go, and Mrs. Baker took some of them home, and when she came back to the house, she said, or Daddy pitched in and helped me do up the dishes then, or the snack trays, and she came back to help, and we were all done. And so when she started away, she said to these four little girls, "Are you sure you girls are going to have a way home now?" And yes, they said, our folks will stop and get us. And so after Mrs. Baker left, they tried to call the house, and they didn't get any answer. So they said, "Well, they're just not home yet." And I said, "Well, then you girls just make yourselves to home and play a while." And then a little bit later, the one little girl, she's part Indian. She looks very Indian, and I didn't know they were cousins before. However, I had one of her older sisters in my class 2 or 3 years ago. And she began to get uneasy, and so she called her mother and told her that uh, she was still waiting for her aunt and uncle to come. And so her mother said, "Well, I'll see if I can get one of your cousins to come and get you." And a little later, he did come, but the other three were down in the basement, and he didn't wait for them. And anyway, I kind of hated to let them go home if they were going to be there alone, because there were two of them of the family, and then one was a little neighbor girl. And I thought that it wouldn't be a good thing. Daddy would have taken them. In fact, he told them if they wanted to go and it was be all right with their folks, he would take them. But they said no, because their folks would stop here anyway. And so, that at 6 o'clock, they decided to try to call home again. And the folks were there, and I don't know why they left them here like that. But they didn't come to get them, and we would have been glad to take them home. But old Daddy was disgusted about that. To think that you stayed on an invitation that the party is from 2:30 until 4:30. And then they'd come on home and not stop and pick them up and just leave them and leave them. I don't know when they would have come and got them if she hadn't called. But those things just upset Daddy, so uh, I felt kind of sorry. But they were all out to Sunday school this morning, and the little girl, their little cousin, was there too. And so I just said to him, "Daddy, these homes that they come from," because one of the girls, the little neighbor girl that was with these two, she said that her mother worked anyway, and she said, "I'll be home all alone unless I stay with these girls." She said, "I usually am over to their house when my mother's working." I said, "Where does she work?" Well, she said she said her job is at the university, so ordinarily she'd be home at that hour, but she says she's working over at the Avalon Bar tonight. So these kids are so it's sort of a pathetic thing. But they all seem to be quite enthused. Then we had another little upset that drove me to my knees here. I have the three Grace girls' daughters. I have Amy that belongs to Sharon, and Connie that belongs to Shirley, and Lori that belongs to Janet. And I had Debbie and Aletha both in other years. And they were always the nicest little girls, but I guess since Debbie has gotten into high school now, she's kind of gone to dances, and somebody sort of said something that offended her. I don't know who it was, but anyway, it made all three of those mothers mad, and they took all the kids away, and they weren't going to come back to our church at all. And they were away 3 Sundays, and that took 3 out of my class, and it kind of bothered me, because those little girls all got their lessons, and they seemed to enjoy it. And it just broke Mrs. Bean's heart to think that her grandchildren weren't getting to come to Sunday school now, because they were real faithful. And Shirley got quite nasty about it. And Mrs. Bean just cried to me, and I said, well, I don't know of anything that's made me sicker, Beanie, but I said that I'm not going to do one thing but pray about it. Because I said if I'd go over to talk to Shirley, I said it'd just give her another chance to unload her grievances, and I just don't feel led of the Lord to I think the best thing to do is just leave it with the Lord. And she said, well, I guess I wouldn't want you to because she'd think I sent you. So we were all alone one prayer meeting night, just the two of us. And so we prayed definitely about it. And I said, Beanie, I said, they'll be back. I'm positive they'll come back because I said that with the background they've had, they just can't to be satisfied anyplace else. And she said, oh, Sylvia, I doubt if they will. She said, I hate to pray and still doubt. The next Sunday morning, they were all back. All of them. A whole bunch of them were back. And I caught Beanie's eye, and she smiled at me, and afterwards she just grabbed me and hugged me, and she said, Gwenny came over last night and was mopping my bathroom floor, and she said, Grandma, we're going to Sunday school tomorrow. And Mrs. Bean said, I couldn't believe it. She said it surprised me so, I just couldn't believe it. But it seems as though you can see so many evidences of the Lord's answering prayer when you really take it to Him and leave it in His hands. It was a thrill to me anyway. Oh, well, let me see. That tape is getting away pretty fast. I wonder what else I should tell you before it does. I wish you could see my African violets. They're just one mass of blossoms. I hope yours are doing as well as these are. Mrs. Baker just couldn't get over it yesterday, and I told her when she went home last night that she could take one with her, but we both forgot it. So I told her this morning that I'd see that she got one. But they sure are pretty. It's just a mass of color all across my windowsill. They need food too once in a while. I just gave them a little plant food here a couple of weeks ago, and it really perked them up and made them start blooming. Well, it sure is a rainy, gloomy day. I talked to Grandma and Aunt Harriet last Sunday too, and she said they had just been having such a good time. And Grandma had to go back this weekend. She said maybe Lillian would come and spend this week with them and go back with her because Ray was hunting this past week up at the ranch, and Lillian and Leora were alone. I don't know whether she did or not, but she said Grandma had been real well, and they just had a real good time, and she'd made her 3 dresses, and so I'm sure it was good for her. Buster wasn't going to go out then for a while. He thought it'd be better to spread our visits here. Well, hello, folkses.
Baby talk. Say something. Baby talk.
Say hello.
Hello. Why?
Say I love Minnie.
Me?
Nene. 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 Nene.
Say I love Rhonda. Minnie talk.
Hi. How you doing, Janis? Huh? Huh?
Janis talk.
Hi, Talk. Gabby.
Puppy.
But listen to me.
Listen to the baby.
Baby. Baby. Mom, yes. Yes.
Baby sing. Can you sing?
Yes.
Baby sing.
Ching, ching. Me. Ma. Nanny. Dog. What did you say? No.
Hello.
What?
Okay. That's a microphone. Yeah. Yeah.
Say I like my blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Yum, yum. What do you like to eat? What are some things you like to eat? Milk?
Milk. We don't eat milk, Mommy.
What do we do when we put on your coat?
Go.
Do you go outside?
Yeah.
Put on your...
Books, and then we'll be into the first of the month again, and I don't know. Resignation in before or my retirement in before I had planned on it, and he said, "Oh, you can't do that. We don't allow it." And he said, "In fact, we are making one exception in retirement age for just you." He said, "You can't quit until you're 85." So, I said, "Oh, I won't last that long." But at any rate, I got any fears I had of losing my job were wiped away because Mr. Page was standing right there when he said it to me. But he sure has given me an awful lot of work to do. And apparently he's giving it to me because it's done, and it's done just as right as anybody could do it. And this little girl that I have now working with me, she worked with Marilyn, and Marilyn has built her up so as being such a wonderful girl. And she got along pretty good, but she got married just about a month ago, and she hasn't had her mind on her work at all. I can tell her to do something and turn around, and she does it wrong. I don't know what she's got on her mind, but she sure doesn't have it on her work. And after we did the financial statement this last month, I took part of the ledgers, and she had been doing it for Mr. Parker until he sort of turned it over to me to do when she was on her honeymoon. And when I got through listing the budget, why, I knew that every 30 month day would be the same, and every 31 month day. So I turned back to compare my work with hers in the past, and there wasn't any month that agreed, and it should have been around $15,000, and she had $7,000 for June, which was the last 30-day month. And I went through and I found so many mistakes. And then this time I told her, as she listed, I said, "Now when you list each department, you go back and add your ledgers, and that's what I will do too. And then when we get through, we'll know that we've got our listing right." But she didn't do it. And I found 4 or 5 mistakes on her when I went to make up this report that goes into Chicago. And she didn't do it, or she would have caught those mistakes. And it makes me just sick when you try to do something and you can't depend on the people. But anyway, so much for that. And I just hate to take off and come back to work that I know is going to be all Jimmy done. But we'll just have to see what happens. Well, talking about what we've done, and we finished a month's contest with the Clare Sunday School, and we lost. But Mrs. Baker and I together, Mrs. Rule Baker, and I together gave a party here at the house, at our house yesterday for our 2 classes together. I hadn't had a party for the 6th grade girls when they were in the 5th grade, so I told her I'd like to have her come with her class and join me in a little party I was giving for mine. And do you know there were 22 came, and this morning I had 18 in my class, and 6 weeks ago today I didn't have one. When I started out this class, there were only about 3 or 4 coming when I took it over in June, or when we had a promotion in June. And then I think it was the 2nd or 3rd Sunday that I didn't have one, and I spent the whole hour in prayer about it. I told Mr. Harsky, he was complimenting me, and I said, I just reminded the Lord of some of his promises that day when he asked me if I didn't want to go up to one of the adult classes, and I said I'd like to, but I said I think I'll just stay down here. And today I had 18 in the class and won the banner for the whole Sunday school. And there were 14 that were on the list of members that hadn't been coming, plus four new visitors. And we didn't lose by much, but we're going to have to entertain the Clare Sunday School now sometime this soon. And I'll be glad when that's over. But I hope our classes hold up. Mrs. Baker had 12, which was unusual, so it kind of helped to give the little party. I hope it did. They seemed to have a good time. We played games and had refreshments and a few other things that kind of disgusted Daddy. Some of these kids that come in on the bus, they were the first ones here, and their folks said they were going to Alma